All right, today we're going to be installing a full Akrapovic exhaust system, headers, and muffler on my 2020 Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX. Shouldn't be too difficult of a project. I've had the exhaust off before to install the max torque hands pipe, which you can see right there. First step is going to be to take the fairings off. Taking the fairings off it's not difficult, but it's a process that there's some steps that you got to follow. So I'll make a separate video on that to show that process. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to remove the front fairings on the 2020 Ninja 1000 SX. First step, what we're going to do is remove the rear seat, which is a simple process. Key, and there's a spot underneath to put the key in there. So we'll take off the rear seat. Next, what you do is you take off the passenger seat, or the rider seat, with these two screws right there. The rider seat off now. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and remove any screws that are visible. So you got a screw here, you got a little screw here, you got a push pin here, you have a larger screw here, and then there's another one right here. And then you have some push pins on the inside of the fender well, right inside here, up on the upper part, right there. You got two of those. Go ahead and remove those. Your next step is, once you get those push pins out, then this upper panel right here, you have push pins in here that push into that part right there. You pull them out. There's three of them. There's one here, there's one here, and then there's another one right here. Once you pull those out and just gently pull them out, this whole fairing piece shifts forward. This whole fairing piece shifts forward. I've already loosened it up, but as you can see, you just push it forward. There's tabs there that click in here and here and here, and then there's those push tabs. They go in here, here, and then there's another one right there. Once you get that off, and then go ahead and disconnect your turn signals right here. And then what we'll do is have to take off this little tab right here and disconnect it from there as well. All right, from that point, you'll go ahead and remove these two screws here, which hold this upper panel in place, and then this screw here, which holds this piece in place, which will expose other screws that are back behind here. All right, once you've got the other screws off up there and your lower screws there, you've got two push pin connectors, large ones. You got one here and you got one on the underside right there. Excuse how dirty the bike is. And then once you get those off, then the fairing's ready to come off. So once you got those push pins out, then your fairing is ready to come off. So you disconnect it up here, and then you pop it out right there, and then the whole piece will just slide forward and it's ready to come. The other side of the bike is the exact same process. There is one thing I forgot to mention, that there's another sensor back here. This guy right here, he's on the back side of the fairing right here, and that's your temperature sensor, so make sure you remove that one as well. So now that we've got the body work off, now we can begin removing the bolts for the header. So what you have is, you see it inside there, the exhaust is still hot, so I want to be careful with what I'm doing. So you've got 8 bolts, 2 on each one of the pipes. So you have to remove those, and then you've got your O2 sensor right here, and then you've got 2 bolts that hold the muffler in place, and then there is another bolt on the underside that kind of supports it from the bottom side. Now what I'm going to do is, since I have the delete pipe already in there, I'm going to leave the whole thing together and take it apart as one unit. So it'll be a little bit more difficult, but shouldn't be too bad. And then once we get that done, then we can put the new system on. Okay, so we have all the bolts off that hold the header in place. So we've got all those disconnected. We've got the O2 sensor removed from its bung. There's one main bolt here that holds the muffler in place. Now what I could do is I could take the muffler off take this heat shield off. There's 2 more bolts that hold this in place right here. And then there's 1 screw that holds that clamp in place. Actually, I think that's what we'll do is we'll remove the muffler first and then take the mid pipe and the headers off second. So these are 5mm screws that hold the heat shield in place. You got 2 of them. This one's a little tricky to get to just because of where the foot peg is. Once you remove that, it slides out of place. And there you go. There's your muffler. Like I said, you got 1 clamp here, and then you got the bolt up here, and then the whole muffler comes off. And then we'll be ready to take off the stock system. It actually worked out well. The whole system came out in one. So here's your stock header. I mean, they're very high quality, but the downside is they're narrow, and I'll show you the difference compared to the Akrapovic header, which is here. And you can see, just looking at the pipes, comparing the difference in the size. So the Ninja 1000, the main restriction is in the header size. And then coming down, like I said, I deleted the muffler box and the cat a while back, and this is the pipe that's this. It's come from a company called Max Torque Cans, and I mean, it's a very high quality pipe. And then here's your stock muffler. Again, the whole stock system, you know, very heavy. A little bit better with this setup, a lot better with this setup. So here's how the system's gonna look. You've got the header pipe, you've got your mid pipe with your bung for your O2 sensor, and you've got your carbon muffler. So it looks good, and we'll start the installation. So the instructions show to install the collars onto the bike first, but the system came with the collars already installed on the headers, so not a big deal. So we'll just install the halves first, and you can see down inside there that we got those started already on this side here. So what we'll do is we'll just hand tighten them, excuse me, and then we'll add the springs, which holds tension and attaches here to the there's a little spot right there where the spring attaches to. So we'll get this side hand tightened, and then we'll attach the spring. So pro tip, it shows the springs being installed on the collars. Put the springs on the collars before you try to attach them on there. You can see where it goes in there. This one wasn't too bad. The inside one, this guy right here, that was a pain in the ass. So, and I will have to have a spring puller to get those. I tried with a pair of needle nose, and that was not successful. So definitely got to get a spring. Here's a better look at the header with the collar and the springs attached. So each header has a spring. The collar, you'll see that the hole where the spring goes in is on the bottom side. Make sure it's like that on both sides. And then the spring will attach right there to the header. It's also key to make sure your little copper exhaust gaskets stay in place. You want to make sure that all 4 of those are in place. They do come out, but they tend to stay in there pretty good. So if you don't need to mess with them, don't leave them in place. Okay. So we got the right side installed. Actually, I come to find out, once I oriented the collars in the right position facing down, I had enough clearance to be able to get all of the springs in place. You want to make sure those are in, because they hold tension and hold the headers in place. And then you want to torque the bolts down to 16 foot-pounds of torque, and we're ready to roll from there. So we got the first part done. Now we're going to move on to the mid pipe. So the mid pipe, it's pretty easy. It just slips on these pipes here. It slips on right there, and then you've got the spring that attaches onto it. So we'll get that put on, and then we'll go from there. So after some head scratching, and if you heard me previously, you might have heard some hesitation in my voice. The collector pipe, the mid pipe here, was installed backwards. So the piece that was for the right side was on the left, and vice versa. Because the hooks, you've got a spring hook here on the underside. They were actually up on the top, and the one for the mid pipe was on the bottom. So after some head scratching, taking it off and doing some trial fitting, I realized that they were backwards. So even Akrapovic does some screwy things sometimes. So nothing major. Pull the springs off and flip the pipes around, and then put everything in place. Now with the O2 sensor, this little bracket right here, that's where the O2 sensor harness kind of goes inside like that. You have to pull it off of there because it's relocated back here. So, you got plenty of cord, of cable, so that's not an issue. So you just got to relocate that and bring that a little further back. Everything looks good. I'm probably going to call it a night tonight and then finish this up tomorrow. Okay, so now we have the O2 sensor installed. Key with that is to twist the wires counterclockwise quite a few times. That way when you go to screw it in clockwise, your cable's not all bunched up. And then also you just take the rest of your cable and then just kind of tuck it up underneath there. I went ahead and put the clamp on the muffler. Really nice clamp, all carbon fiber. You be careful when you put it on. You want to kind of pull it apart, slide it across the muffler, and then you got to take these screws out, which have a retaining nut in the back right here, and then put those on and then tighten those down. So now we're ready to put the muffler on. All right, so we got the muffler slid on. The kit comes with a gasket, but I think that's only for if you're mating it up, if you're just using the slip-on, not in the full exhaust system, because it doesn't fit on there with the full system. Make sure you put your clamp on right here. Make sure you put your clamp on loose before you slide your muffler on, or you have to take it off and do it again. And then the kit comes with a new bolt that you put through that mounts to that back side there. I think it would look nicer if it mounted to the front side, but how the shape of the canister is, it has to go across the back. All right, so we've got the last spring installed, the clamp tightened down. We've got the bolt here holding the muffler in place, tightened down. So now what we'll do is we'll go back and just check all of our bolts again, check all of our springs, make sure everything's good, and then we're ready for the first startup. Everything is done, everything's tightened, everything's checked. Time for the first startup. Now, first time you run it, probably get some smoke just from any oils or anything that's on the pipes as they heat up. Completely normal, but sounds good so far. See, there's some smoke right there. There we go. First run went well. Everything looks good. A little bit of smoke from the oils burning off, but overall not too bad. So happy with the installation. Now put the bodywork back on and take it out for an inaugural test ride.